RNG! 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 RNG!
Welcome to the RNG Podcast. We're five gamers who today are going to talk about Magic, specifically Grand Prix Miami, and tabletop gaming. We'll give you a few recommendations based on games we're playing now. I'm Miguel, and this week I'm here with Brian.
Hello, guys.
Glenn.
Yo.
And Josh.
Alright.
Alright, so let's jump into it. Grand Prix Miami. What do we see?
We saw a dominant deck emerge 2 to 3 weeks before Dragons of Tarkir coming out. And
Well, was it? It emerged on the tournament, but it had already been out, right? You
like
said.
a week.
But I mean, what's his name? I've been playing it for
Sam Black.
solid for a while. So it wasn't just a huge surprise, but it was surprising that it
surprising
dominated as well as it did.
Yeah, it's surprising that a lot of pro players are actually playing it, like Star City guys and some people from the East Coast. And it was just it was dominant.
Spill it. What is it?
So 2 of them top 8. Actually, first and second place.
Okay. Yeah,
they battled it out in the finals. And it's a devotion deck, green-white devotion.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same shell of like Elvish Mystic, Voyaging Satyr, Carroted, Corsair Crufix, Polukranos, and the land Nykthos, which gives you mana equal to the number of green symbols you have on the board.
Devotion.
Yeah, which is called Devotion. And then there's a card that they play that's there's 5 white cards in the deck, or including Fleet's main line, but there's a card that they play called Mastery of the Unseen, which is a 2-cost enchantment, 1 white, 1 other, and whenever you flip a card face up through Morph, Megamorph, or Manifest, you gain 1 life for every creature you control. And then it has another ability of 3 colorless, 1 white, manifest the top card of your deck, which is put the top card of your deck face down, and it's a 2/2 creature, and you can flip it face up for its converted mana cost. If it's a creature, if it's not a creature, then you can't flip it face up. It's just a 2/2 guy. So, so the deck generates a lot of mana, and they can use Master of the Unseen a bunch of times. So in a deck with all creature, like mostly all creatures, it's just a draw spell. They just draw, and then they'll just beat you through card advantage.
And gaining a crap ton of life, so you can never get back in the game.
So most decks that are like burn based or rush decks, when it takes a while for them to actually do the Master of the Unseen thing, but the thing is they have a solid lineup on like Corsair Crufix and Carroted. They're all like historically good against rush decks. So we just played a couple of games. Me and Glenn built the deck like a couple of hours ago. Played a few games, and it's like, I beat him a couple of times because he was slow on the draw. But there's games where he like set up and it was like, oh, I can't win anymore. Like I can literally draw my entire deck and can't beat him. Like
I think the scary part about that deck is the fact you can see the future really easily. You're just like, there's just a point where you're just like, okay, it's going to take you a while, but you're going to win. Period.
Yeah, there's
absolutely no chance of me winning this game now.
Yeah, he's just going to gain too much life. If they get multiple Master of the Unseen, it's like they double the trigger. It's just a really good deck. Like, kudos to I think they're crediting Sam Black and Brad Nelson tweaked the deck, and they didn't play the same exact version, but they like kind of talked to each other. That's what they said in an interview. But yeah, they both did well. Brad Nelson's brother got second place. And Brad Nelson actually conceded in the last round to give him they got matched up, and whoever won got the top 8. So he conceded to his brother.
Right.
And the first and second place, a green-white devotion, just like 4 cards difference from the 75.
For the first and second place?
Yeah.
It was, I think, 2 cards.
2 cards. So
wait, that was mirrored at the end?
Yeah, mirror. And those games are like ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because they don't have like removal spells, especially game 1. They don't have They have 1 banishing light or something like that. So it's like whoever gets to ramp faster to like bullshit stuff.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So it's really Sam Black actually like drew twice in the rounds. There's one game he drew and he had like 150 life versus his mirror match who had like 80 life.
Wow.
And they couldn't kill each other.
Stare each other in the face.
So, are there any silver bullets there? Well, how do you tech against that? Like, if you think, okay, this is going to be dominant from now on, I want to run something counter. Like, what's your best shot?
I think
Blue-white control shell or something that has board wipes.
Yeah, board wipes are good, but like you still need to take care of Master of the Unseen, is because it generates just creatures. Like you as the blue player or like Wrath of God player, you have to take care of it, right? Mm-hmm. So blue-black control can't actually hit Master of the Unseen till they get to Ugin. Ugin exiles permanents less than the counters it removes. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, you have to get to 8 mana. So, like, it might take a while.
And by then they'll be at 300 life.
No, I mean, they might not gain a lot of life because you're trying to kill everything. Mm-hmm. But, like, Master of the Unseen is like, make a 2-2, make a 2-2. And the fact that if you Ugin while there's manifest tokens on the board, because Ugin exiles colored permanents.
And those are 2/2 colorless creatures.
Yeah, face down creatures are colorless.
That's why I was thinking blue-white control maybe with Ugin. Because at least you have, like, Elspeth to deal with stuff and...
Yeah,
like traditional board wipes. So
it's just like that deck
is going to be worthless against like Abzan and some other stuff. Yeah.
So I mean, after maybe Dragons of Tarkir, we'll have some answers for sure. So
like a deck that has a color red in it.
Yeah. So I mean, red is like notoriously bad.
We'll have to see how fast it can end up being.
Notoriously bad against Carotid and Courser Prefix, Pelicronos. It's like they jump turn by turn.
Mr. Dash Fireball.
Yeah, but you just trade, with a green creature.
No, that's what I'm saying though. Is we'll have to see how fast that deck ends up being, how good that deck ends up being. Like you trading your Carotid is probably willing to do that. They haven't been able to do it before. Never been able to trade with Carotid. They're just able to sit there and go like, oh, I don't have 2 dudes, not getting through.
Yeah. So, I think Wrath of God effects are good. It's just Master of the Unseen is innately good against control decks as well because he just draws them cards and they'll just beat you through card advantage because you don't have creatures on board. Like when you're a control player and they're just like, how a 2/2 is good enough, they just keep attacking and then you're like gotta kill each one and they're getting it for free.
It goes back to Mutable where look at Mutable can just destroy a control shell.
So it was great though that the standard format is still being explored,
fleshed out.
Yeah, and it's like it's pretty crazy. I mean, it's still Green Devotion. We've seen it before, but like this is a new thing.
That's completely different than what Green Devotion was.
Yeah,
it's like just beats monsters and crazy.
This one it draws cards.
This one draw cards, heals itself, and
it's just crazy. Perfect. It's a great like mana dump. So Grand Prix Miami, I watched most of it. I didn't actually watch the top 8 because I was doing something. I don't know, having dinner or something. It was just like long. The tournament's long, and I've been watching, but.
Well, as interesting as this new deck is, it's pretty miserable to watch. I mean, can you imagine that watching the finals? Sit there and just like, how long? 6.5 hours of like watching you guys gain life? No thanks, I'll pass.
I think the game went.
Kudos to having a good deck, but
I think that match went like 110 minutes.
Whoa.
For the entire match. And game 3, what I was able to see was the winner, what's his name? Corey. No, not Corey. What's the first place name?
Daniel.
Who? Daniel Cicchetti was at like 169. I was like, that was ridiculous. To his opponent, Corey, who was at like 69 after a swing. And there's just no way he was able to catch up, so he just had to scoop at that point because there's no way he's going to win.
It's 110 minutes and there was a scoop involved.
Wow.
He just basically conceded. It's like, and like the main card, the difference between them was they were saying was because of Timber Sabertooth, which is a nutty card in itself.
Yeah, because there's no like real removal in the mirror except for like Valor stance, I think, in the sideboard. Timber Sabertooth can like bounce Genesis Hydra, and then you can keep getting Pelucranos over and over, and then like just like can start shooting stuff. Like I really don't know how the match is supposed to be played, but I think Timor Sabertooth will you can bounce Pelucranos, put it back, and then start killing guys. Bounce it back, killing guys. It's gonna be slow, but you'll get there. You'll eventually kill stuff.
I'm kind of curious how Ashiok will come into play with this, as if that deck manifests a lot and everything. Like and it's mostly creatures. I mean, if I start milling you, and if there's a control shell for blue black or blue black white or something like that plays Ashiok, they can start stealing big dudes or what have you.
Yeah, I think
Wildwood's huge, and then
Ashiok has been notoriously good against green decks. So yeah, it's just a matter of drawing at turn 3.
Yeah,
any later you're like you have to board wipe then play her because she'll die right on the spot because she can't really protect. She can't protect herself in the first turn she comes in. Yeah.
All right. So what else is there? So we talked about the top 2. What else rounded us out here in the 8?
Third place was Abzan Reanimator, which is a pretty cool concept of Whip and Rhino, Whip and Hornets.
Oh, Hornet Queen and
Hornet Queens. Yeah,
that deck's dirty.
Abzan aggro we've seen before. 2 mono red aggros for 5th and 6th place.
Wasn't one of them? It says here Ralph Batesh.
Abzan aggro.
Oh, dispatch different mono red aggro opponents in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, dispatched.
Oh, okay. So. Yeah. Oh, I thought they were implying that one of them was a different deck.
Oh no, 5th and 6th place were both mono red aggro who lost in the quarterfinals. And then 7th place was another Abzan aggro, Andrew Boswell. And Andrew was so like dominant in the Swiss rounds. And then in the finals, like, didn't draw well, multi-5, game over.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was just like kind of like, oh man, that's how you lost. Right. It's like, I feel for the guy. He top 8 though, that was great. Yeah. Top 8 Grand Prix. Yeah.
Ralph Batesh's deck looks pretty standard Abzan.
Mm-hmm. And there's a Naya aggro in the 8th place.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't see him play, so I didn't get to see what's in his deck. But this looks like Fanatic of Xenagos, Goblin Marble Master, Haste guys. I think Shaman of the Great Hunt to Storm Breath Dragon are like pretty cool.
No Outpost Siege?
Nope.
Oh
no, there is 2.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What up?
But it's too good.
Yeah, that card is blowing up. Outpost Siege.
So many cards.
That's the only reason why I can think of playing Nayas.
Yeah. I don't even know why you would play white. What do you need white for? Chain to the Rocks?
Oh, I thought Outpost Siege was red-white.
No, it's just red. Red 3 other.
Gotcha.
Nice and easy to play.
It's just crazy though, just how many cards. After this tournament, like cards.
Was he playing Vanishing Light?
No.
So what the hell is he playing as white?
Chain to the Rocks.
That's it?
And Valorous Stance.
Oh, okay. I guess.
Valorous Stance is good now.
Well, he's top 8, so what am I?
Yeah.
So what am I talking about?
What are we doing? Grand Prix, even the Open Series now, they're like 15 rounds. Man, to like X2, 15 rounds?
This is why I have no interest in competitive Magic right now. 15 rounds? Versus doing 10 rounds in a day was murder.
Well, it's 9 rounds.
And that was one game.
It's 9 rounds day 1, day 2 is 6 rounds. If you top 8, 9 rounds again.
But you're lucky
3 rounds
if only a half of your rounds go way over time.
Yeah. Well, that's depends on what you're playing.
Well, I mean, even the waiting around kills you. Like,
oh yeah. It's just part of it.
I still think like what we used to do in Versus was very important, like making sure that somebody goes and gets food and stuff like that.
And Versus was half hour games, and it goes to time to like 45 minutes or an hour. Or if you played in Pro Circuit New York, I played Gamma Bomb Doom. Always went to time.
Nice.
But what I was getting at though was like how it seems like at Magic tournaments, whenever I see people, they're just kind of milling around and stuff like that, and it's like you should have like a plan. Like if you're at a real tourney, like, and you actually want to finish well, you should make sure you've been drinking water or something. At least have something in your system, food of some sort or sugar of some sort in your system, and then make sure like if you start to get tired towards the end of the day and you finish a round early, like take a nap and have a friend wake you up. Like
I'm an advocate of like having, like a lot of people with you. Yeah. Like I know some people like travel and they're like 2 people, but you gotta watch each other's back. if you're going alone to a tournament, that's something I don't recommend because
bring a sandwich and a lot of water because it's gonna be rough.
It's gonna be rough. Like you don't know how your rounds are gonna go. Sometimes you don't have time in between. You're like you're the last ticket. And you have like 5 minutes before the next round. It's like I gotta pee, I gotta eat, you gotta do some stuff. And the bathrooms are always horrible.
Right. Yes, they are.
Adderall.
Yes, they are.
Answer. Adderall.
No. Terrible idea.
And a zipper for your butt? How are you gonna take shits in 5 minutes?
No, he's talking about Adderall is a...
I know. To make...
Though I'm a huge advocate of nootropics, but that's another matter entirely.
But I do. Yeah, that's one thing that...
Stay away from caffeine, if possible. The huge one that no one ever follows is get rest the night before.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
super important.
It's so crazy how many people take stuff so seriously, and then they're up until like 4 a.m. tweaking their deck and play testing and stuff. It's like, you knew this was coming for weeks, months even, and now is when you decide to crunch time. So, it's...
Yeah, it's just your decisiveness.
That goes back to a thread we're involved in today where somebody was talking about how they always audible right before a tournament and swap out decks, and it's like, I wonder how many pros ever do that. I bet you there's none. Like, unless they're just like, and if they are, I wonder how many of them can actually top 8 when they just switch decks at the last second and haven't been practicing that deck for a couple days, if not weeks.
I'm pretty sure it has happened.
Because but I bet you that like if you actually
low percentage.
If you took them percentage wise and how many did it would be low, and then how many of those actually won that tourney or did well in that tourney, it would be low as well. Because there's a reason why they're pros. They treat it professionally. They practice. They don't mess around with what deck they're playing. I can imagine. Like 2 weeks before the tourney, they're like changing their mind or something like that, but not the night before. That's ridiculous.
Sleeping thing is a big thing. I feel like I'm so tired in the end, and I play like simple aggressive decks. Like my philosophy for like long tournaments is like play a deck I'm comfortable with and simple enough so there's not too many branches of decisions because I have to play for like 9 rounds or something. Right. And that's why I'm a green player. Right. I don't know how those stall decks do it. Like blue players.
And make sure your rounds can end early so you can go sit down, chill.
Yeah.
Because, like, a good example, when we went to Comic-Con, you're sick as hell, but all of your rounds ended early, so you got to sleep a little bit. I mean, it didn't really help that much, but you were tore the fuck up. But
yeah, I was
if you hadn't gotten to sleep in between rounds, you'd have just been, like, delirious and retarded after, like, round 2.
Yeah. I top 8 that tournament.
Exactly.
Top 8 at 10K. But yeah, we're going off a tangent, but like I feel like people should really look at their tournament like regimen, like sleep.
Yeah, you should chart everything out. Like, no, you don't have to have a fucking ledger or some shit like that, but make sure you're thinking about food, sleep, everything.
And then like I know it's hard to like not look at your deck for like hours on end before the tournament, but like just like set a deadline. Like I'm done at 8 p.m. I'm done at 9 p.m. And just like, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep, wake up.
I feel like you should just at some point you should just be like, I've written out my deck list. Set your deck down, walk away, go do something else before you'll have plenty of time right before the tournament start freaking out and everything.
I mean, this is true of just like everything in life, right? So I've played rock and roll shows. It's like the day before is not the time to like nail down that song. You should have nailed it down already. Yeah. Giving presentations at work, like you either know it or you don't. 24 hours beforehand and feeling rushed and panicked, that's not going to help. So yeah.
Yeah, preparation is the key in everything.
Yeah.
And freaking out about it right beforehand ain't going to help you.
No.
Yeah. I know it's like hard to, especially for paper Magic, to like keep practicing, like getting all that practice in. But
well, especially since everyone seems to think that or everyone we know doesn't seem to value practice very much.
Yeah, they do want to practice.
But they just don't get it done. Yeah. And then that feeds the whole like, oh, let's practice till all hours of the night, and then we'll just crash at 6 a.m. and then wake up at 10 and be there at the tourney and complaining about.
Oh yeah, if the tournament can pre-reg, please pre-reg. I hate people that roll in 10 minutes before the tournament and like get mad if they don't get to sign up. It's like, you're going to the tournament, right? Why are you rolling in like 10 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yeah, do yourself and everyone at the tourney a favor. Show up pre-reg or show up way early to sign up, and then you can be the other guy sitting there with Brian going like, why the fuck is this asshole showing up 5 minutes before the tourney and then complaining to the judge that he can't get into the tournament because they already hit their cap.
I really appreciate CFB lately where
Capping.
they at least they have a deadline.
Yeah.
Like they have a deadline at like 10:20, tournament starts at 10:30, and they've been prompt. Like in like the PTQs and PPTQs I played in, and it's like, yeah, awesome. Like I'm here an hour before. Screw the other guys.
Right.
Like I know this is a recreational activity, but like if you want to play in it, come early.
Right.
I'm taking it seriously. Why aren't you?
Yeah. Because you're going to be there late anyway, and then when it's just a bunch of
Well, it's one thing if it's just a draft or what have you, but if it's a PPTQ or PTQ, it's like. Everyone else here is taking it seriously. This is to get into the pro tour, or to qualify for pro tour. Why on earth are you gonna fuck everything up for everyone else that's there?
Yeah. Like, I can't stress this enough. Pre-register, please. And tournament organizers, hopefully, I wish a lot of them are like at least Grand Prix, the big tournaments are like. No Saturday registration. Like register Friday or pre-reg. When it comes to Saturday, tournament starts at X time. No one can register anymore. Like screw it, you know.
Yeah.
And I haven't played in the recent SCG Open. Hopefully that's the same thing. Because man, I just hate it when like tournaments already run long. Can you can we at least?
It also cuts out one huge problem that can and usually does occur, and that's the Wizards tournament program crashing while they're doing signups. Like I've been to plenty of tournaments where it's happened, and it's like they're entering people's information because it's people entering day of, and all of a sudden, tournament crashed. Got to fix it. Which means entering anywhere from entering some people back into the tournament or everybody back in the tournament. And that's the one where you sit there and go wait, well, you see some poor scorekeeper behind the desk going, I've got 2 hours worth of work to do in a half hour. I'm fucked. That can all be avoided if they don't do Saturday registration or whatever. And it's already set up and ready for tournament day.
We got to give the tournament organizers some slack. Just give them some time.
Yeah, I mean, because
these things.
It's all judges, so it's all volunteers. I mean, no matter how big a dick bag half the judges are or whatever. Yeah. They're still doing something for free for you. Yeah. It doesn't matter if they get product for free.
Yeah, to play a game that we like.
What do you think the real ratio? You use the term dick bag. So when I've been
perhaps?
Sure, fine, yeah. On the lower level tournaments. That I've played in, just the previews and stuff like that. I found that for the most part, everybody was pretty cool. There was maybe one dick judge out of.
It's in casual tournaments, everyone's easygoing.
Right.
But when it's a PTQ, people are rule sharking,
right,
and stuff like that.
And that part is okay. I understand that, in verses that happen too, and I experienced that. But there are judges who are okay, we got to be rule shark and be cool about it, and others that are just kind of assholes. What's the ratio for Magic?
For me, I mean, I know the rules most of the time, so when I call the judge or my opponent calls the judge, we kind of know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen anyway. So. Most of the time, it's something I agree with anyway, and they're just this is what happens, or look at the phone, or just if you don't agree, always appeal. Don't be embarrassed. Right. They're not gonna this guy again.
And on the other end, don't be an ass if your opponent calls. Yeah. Right. Just be that's cool. All right. Yeah. Let's just have someone.
That's their right. Just like it's your right.
So. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Even when you know you're right. Don't argue it out. Just get it done quickly because you want to get back to playing so that you can finish the game and go eat your sandwich or take your nap. Yeah, definitely.
No, I think that I think it really comes down to what you're playing at, because when you come to non-competitive events like open or release events, etc., you're gonna run into less ass clownery or whatever. People are gonna be a little bit more relaxed about it. I mean, maybe if you start coming down to we're both XO and one of us is getting 16 packs versus 10 or something like that, you might run into some asshole or what have you. But like, I think when you get into competitive REL, that's where you start running into like not just the dickbag players, but the judges too, where they're trying to prove something because, you know, they want their credit and they want to make sure that they get, you know, up to, they can take their test for level 2 or level 3 and then they can get better, you know, judge promos, etc. Like, or they're just an asshole. I mean, there's a couple judges we all know that are, you just want to kick them in the face half the time when they come up to talk because you're just like, yeah, you don't know what you're doing. So, I mean, there's plenty of those. I mean, I'd name names if I know it wouldn't piss some people off.
Always appeal.
Always.
Yeah.
If you don't agree, like completely agree, always appeal.
Right.
Especially since the higher level judges, almost like 3 and up, almost always tend to be nice. Like, because that's how they got there.
Right.
You can't get past level 2 being a dick.
Right.
Like, for the most part.
But this all, I guess, I think brings it back to, especially for the players who are new to tournaments and even maybe new to Magic, is just like really know the rules. Like, pay attention to that metagame because you're going to see a lot of those decks again and again and again, and it's your responsibility as a player to know how those decks operate and to know what some of those combos are. So you're not just sitting there going, wait, that doesn't work, raising your hand and wasting everybody's time, including the judge's time. So people who are just sort of dropping in and hoping that their random deck does well and doesn't understand what the metagame is about is costing everybody time sort of in the long run and themselves some frustration. So,
well, I think that goes a little too far as far as like knowing the metagame and stuff like that. Some players just aren't going to do that. But I do think that an important part, and you don't necessarily have to take the test or something like that, but it does help. I think everyone should try and at least be a level 1 judge or higher because you'll understand the game mechanics better. Using the terminology that judges use goes a long way towards helping your case when you're actually talking to another judge.
okay, good point.
And then also, if you like the game enough, you should know the mechanics. Like, I'm not going to push Brian to go take his level 1 test or something like that. He doesn't need to. I know he knows the rules.
Right.
But you should at least want your understanding level to be high enough to the point where you're not going to be confused when a judge rules against you and makes you look like an idiot.
Right. So just like with Versus, is it semi-easy to get that level 1 judgeship?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Magic is very, and that's why I said, like, Brian's not going to put forth the effort because it's actually takes effort to be a judge in Magic. But you can log on to their website and for judges.wizards.com, I think it is. Yeah, you whatever. Find it, But you can take practice tests.
Oh, okay.
And they'll grade you on it. And there's a rules advisor test that you can get the rules advisor credential, which is actually harder than the level 1 judge test from what I understand. Because I failed it like 6 times. And then I've heard that the level 1 judge test is unfailable. So, like, the rules advisor test is, I know level 1 judges that don't have it and have failed it. So, anything involving the early stuff is always usually good because, a firm foundation and understanding the actual underworkings of Magic, because it is if you actually start breaking down every play, the game is insanely complicated. And if you don't need to be like a level 3 judge to be a good player, but you'd be hard pressed to find a pro that probably couldn't take the level 2 or 3 judge test and pass it with flying colors. And part of it also with the whole judge system in Magic is it's a good old boys club, so it's not really that important to be a judge because you do have to have tournament experience and have to get past level 1, you have to have somebody who will sponsor you and all this other bullshit. But it still doesn't hurt to have the knowledge to be able to do that stuff and take the practice tests and even if not that, just reading up on the rules because.
Oh, and when you're playing, don't be afraid to ask your opponent, "Can I read that card?"
Yeah.
Do not believe what your opponent is like just paraphrasing.
Yeah.
Read the card.
Yeah.
Like, I always "Can I read that card? Can I read that card?" Like, I've been playing this game a lot, but I still read cards. You know,
if you forgot.
Don't assume cards, Glenn.
Yeah.
I always catch Glenn. I always tell him, don't assume what the card does.
Right.
Well, it goes back to the old the Glenner size.
Yeah.
We put him through 1 minute per move.
Yeah.
Before you can make a move, you have to wait 1 minute and think about it. Try the exercise yourself. It'll take you like 45 minutes to play a game, but you'll be amazed at how many different lines of play and decision trees that you can figure out that weren't there the first time you played.
Yeah. All right. Do we have a patent on that? What is it?
Glennersize.
Glennersize. All right. We're going to have to do the TM. All right. Yeah. Patent pending, trademark.
Just trademark. I think patent pending is a little going too
Well,
far.
that should be a system, right? We should put anyway. We're digressing.
That's glenning. That is patent pending. I think, right?
Okay. All right. Let's move on. All right. So let's talk about tabletop gaming and. We have a few
board gaming, I guess, would be more appropriate to also put in there.
Sure.
Because otherwise, I was thinking of tabletop gaming as like Warhammer 30.
No, the new definition of tabletop gaming is just
board gaming, and
not video games.
Okay,
right.
Like card games and stuff like that are like tabletop games.
Right.
Okay. Wow.
So cool. So a few recommendations based on games that we're playing now or played recently. As opposed to the best tabletop games of all time, but just like some more recent things that we've been playing. Let's start with Brian. Like, what have you been playing? What would you like to talk about?
Oh yeah, so I've recently friends and I have been playing Elder Sign. We've been playing that for a while now, and then a friend of mine got the expansion. And Elder Signs is kind of like a short version of Arkham Horror. So it's like H.P. Lovecraft stuff, Cthulhu. If you're into that, you'll like this game. And Arkham Horror is like great. It's like a lot of mechanics and stuff, but it just takes a long time to play. And this time around, it's like fast paced, still pretty brutal. Like it's not that easy to beat, so it's still an accomplishment to beat. And
I think it's not as penalizing for failure as Arkham Horror is. Yeah, I haven't really played Arkham Horror, so
yeah, it's okay.
It feels like when your character dies, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, like the thing is with this game, it is a dice game, which notoriously I don't like. But this game is like.
Let's talk just real quick, because this always fascinates me about you and your love for gaming. Why don't you like dice games? What's the deal?
So I have this thing that I typically don't believe in luck, but I am lifetime below 30% or lower winning dice. Like
I think you're being really generous to yourself.
I think I am at 30% or lower.
I think you're like 20% lower. You suck at rolling dice, dude.
So dice especially in card gaming, when you're trying to go who goes first or second. Odds or evens and versus you roll a die, high roll or low roll, I mostly lose them. I'm not saying this because I remember losing. Here's my big one. Pro Circuit Indianapolis. I played day 1 and day 2, and then played in a PCQ in Sunday, and I went 0-24.
I still think I like your Pokemon last Pokemon game played.
Pokemon is coin flipping,
but it's still random. It's still random. That's only random.
Is that different than dice for you? Coin flipping?
Not really.
Not really. I'm still horrible at both. But I've not played a coin flipping game ever, since then. So Pokemon. This is the story of my Pokemon game. It's my last Pokemon game ever.
Because you got so pissed you flipped the table and beat
No.
Oh no! So I had a Pokemon, and my opponent put my Pokemon to sleep. And in Pokemon, if you're asleep, in the end of your turn and your opponent's turn, you flip a coin. If you flip heads, you wake up. 10 turns of my Pokemon being asleep.
Yes.
So that's 20 coin flips. I got tails 20 times. I quit, gave my deck to my friend, and quit the game. So that's how. That's how my stories are with dice games and coin games. I don't even play.
Right.
You can't even get me to play those games.
Well, it seems this only has to do with initiative or like getting out of something, like the waking up from sleep. Yeah. Because you played fine at that one dice game,
Court the King.
Court the King, and like you weren't bad at Dice Masters.
Yeah, no.
But whenever it comes, but if it has to do with like going first or like escaping something, you just can't win.
Yep.
All right, well, let's get back into to your review here. You're talking about.
So Elder Signs is pretty cool. It's a co-op game, so it's pretty cool. And there's little like like actual strategy. I mean, you're like, okay, I think I'm pretty good at this quest. So there's like 6 cards on the table, and then each card's gonna have like 4 tasks on them, and they're like three magnifying glass and a skull. So a dice will have a number 1 magnifying glass, so it's like clues. So it's like 1, 2, 3, and then a skull face, a terror face, which is like Cthulhu tentacles, and a scroll. So those are the 6 faces of a die. So when a quest is in front of you, you're like, I need a scroll and a skull. So you have 6 dice, you roll them. You're like, I don't have it. So if you don't have anything to like place on that, you take away 1 die and then re-roll. And then take away 1 die till you finish your quest. And that's pretty much, and then you collect, some of the rewards are like these gates, closed gates, or like elder signs. And when you collect enough elder signs, you win the game. Or the monster breaks out, the elder one, the ancient one breaks out, and then you have to fight them. And most of the time, it's like a losing battle.
Good luck.
But the last time we played in Elder Signs, we did beat him.
Nice.
So I had some few lucky. So you had to roll a specific. I think it was like a scroll and a skull, right? And a number 2 investigation roll, right? And you only have 6 dice. And you have to hit him 11 times, right? Everyone. And then every round he just like takes down a dude. So he attacks everyone. So I had 6 dice and I hit him twice in 1 roll. So it was like really specific, the rolls I got. So stuff like that could happen. It was like, oh, awesome. And we did beat him. And we played the new expansion that makes it harder. The quests are face down. So you don't even know what you're walking into. You're like, I'm not good with skulls, so I don't have like skull abilities. And then you walk in, I need to roll 5 skulls in 7 dice, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the game is really fun. If you kind of like Pandemic or Deserted Island, stuff like that, the co-op, and it's hard. And it's like it feels like an accomplishment when you're like, yeah, like you'll lose a couple of times, and that's how the game works. It's like they crushed me, and then you finally beat it. Very Dark Souls, like video game to tabletop. So that's my recommendation.
Yeah. Cool, sounds good. So
I second that. That game is badass.
What is how much does it cost, and how long does it take to play, and how many players?
They say you can play 1 to 8 players, but they do not recommend it because there's a mechanic of the game where time moves 3 hours per turn. So if Miguel, you're going first, and then you go, you end your turn, and you're 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, right? And it's my turn. My turn is 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, so on and so forth. If there's more than more than 4 players, then you don't even get a turn within the day 1. And new mythos, which are events, happen, and they're like mostly bad. So like by the time you get to your turn, if you're 8 players, like 2 days of mythos has happened or something, and you're like, okay, I already lost 2 sanity and I already lost health before I even got to my turn. And building up your character, like a big thing about this game is getting items and getting better, right? Each character. And when the game is just shitting on you, and you're like, I have a knife. My turn? Okay. Like gates are open and stuff. Like, what can I even accomplish? Like, I don't recommend it. I haven't played an 8-player game. I did play a 5-player game the other night, and it was just like, the time is like off. Like every time it's like, oh shit, like the day ends on you. The day ends on you. Like, becomes different, and it's like, it was kind of hard, and it was fun. Like, we had to like plan around it, but like 8 players seems like a joke.
Yeah, I played 3 and I liked it.
Yeah, because it's less time.
You don't worry as much constantly about like, oh shit, the next day is happening. We're fucked. Like,
but I assume then the game scales if the big bad beastie at the end comes out 8 versus 3, right?
Well, 8 of you get to attack.
Right.
But before he gets to attack, he attacks in the end, not the end of the day, but he attacks. After everyone attacks. But you guys are all weak. That's the problem. Like one ancient one is like, for every sanity everyone's losing or something, you need that much investigation dice to roll, right? So it's like, oh, we're missing a lot. We can't actually hit him. So stuff like that.
But isn't it better to have 8 weak players than 3 weak players?
It just depends on the ancient ones, because the ancient ones are random.
Mm-hmm.
Some ancient ones are like n plus 1.
Mm-hmm.
N is a number of players. It's it becomes too difficult.
Right.
Some of you will hit them, some of you won't.
Mm-hmm.
And then guaranteed, someone in that 8 or 3 or more of the people in the 8 will die in one hit. Because someone just becomes the super guy. Like, oh, we're pumping this guy up. Because if we can give him stuff, we'll give him stuff. Because he's the one that always accomplishes something, which is great, And the game's about like $30, I think, in Amazon and stuff. And the expansion's the same amount. There's actually an expansion in between the things I'm talking about. It's like it improves like the aesthetic of the game. Like instead of like crappy cards, they give you like better cards and stuff like that. They add some stuff, and then in the new expansion, they actually cut away some stuff. Like, oh, there's no more store. You get to do something else in between rather than the stores, and they add cards, stuff like that. That's why it's harder. There's no like, oh, I have some trophies. When you beat like bad guys or quests, you get a trophy. And sometime in the old game, you could like trade two trophies to get like a gun. And this one is like you have to wait for the store card to come up before you can buy something. So you're like, okay, you're just like kind of just hoping for stuff.
What's the sort of the level of entry? Who should run out and buy this? Beginning gamers, expert gamers. If you're down with Magic, you can be down with this. What's the level?
I think the game is you just need someone to like read all of it. It's kind of a lengthy rule book, but when you get someone to know how to play, he or she can easily like just tell everyone how to play.
Navigate.
And the game is just rolling dice.
Right. Okay.
You're like, you didn't roll well.
Right. All right, Glenn, over to you. What's up with tabletop gaming? What do you like? Recommendation.
So I got introduced to this game by Brian's friends called Betrayal on the House of the Hill, I think it's called. Betrayal at the House on the Hill. So essentially, it's another tabletop gaming released by Wizards of the Coast, and it's really, really fun. I mean, I really enjoyed it. It's sort of like horror, adventure, discovery kind of game where your characters are stuck in a house, and basically they're exploring rooms. And at one point of the game, when you basically find enough omens, but you can't beat the omens, the bad thing happens. And what happens if the bad things happen is where the real fun begins. So this is a card draw, also dice rolling game, where your dice rolls are determined by your character stats, and you get to power them up with items and things you find while you're exploring the house. So it's just one of those games where it's just immensely fun to be able to interact with your friends and know and strategize with them, especially when the bad thing happens, because then a lot of times you don't know what can happen since it's all random. It's all randomized.
Okay, so the bad thing that he's talking about is one of you randomly becomes the bad guy.
Oh.
So that's one of the twists of this game that actually made it really interesting.
And you don't know who's going to be the bad guy. It's like the game dictates it.
Interesting.
So that's really makes it really fun for me, since it's the first time in a game I've actually did where one of my teammates, you don't know who it is until the very end of the bad thing happens, becomes the bad person, rather than trying to figure it out like it is for what was it, Resistance?
Yeah.
Or some other thing where you're trying to do this whole guessing game of who it is. You know who it is at the end. Logic game.
But this one is just like outright fun.
And this is the one with the 2 books, right?
Yeah, the books.
There has like crazy replayability.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like
as long
scenarios.
as some asshole doesn't go back and read through all the books.
Are you laying down tiles and building the house as
Yes.
you go? I have played this.
Yeah.
I've played this with Sarah and our cousins. That was
our cousins?
my cousin.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true. Oops, a little too much reveal right there. We'll get into that in a later podcast. How I married my white cousin.
Nice.
That is actually a lot of fun, and it's cool because now I can sort of better judge like the entry levelness, because my wife is not really a gamer, and she played and she was able to follow along, And that unpredictability of the endings. There's like 60 possible options or something that could happen to you, and you don't know what it's going to be. It's just going to hit some way. Something's going to trigger halfway through, and the gameplay totally changes.
Oh yeah.
So I played this game like 12 times, and I haven't hit the same one.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, there's the two things, right? There's the betrayer, and then there's like 2 ways to win.
No. It's different in every scenario.
Yeah.
So there's a way
That's
to
what
lose.
it is. There's scenarios.
Yeah. So
scenarios and the betrayer.
There's a way to win and a way to lose. So that's the betrayer knows how he can win, and then the other people know how they can win and lose. Mm-hmm. But they kind of don't have all the information. So when the omen gets rolled and you fail the omen roll, someone becomes the betrayer and they leave the room. They read what they have to do, and then the other team the original team without the betrayer has to read the book and like, okay, we need to destroy the spaceship. We don't know what the scenario is.
I got that one. That was the one we got.
Aliens.
I hate that one so much.
Man, that one was really crazy. It's like, hypnotize you, go to the ship. They just walk around, hypnotize you, go to the ship.
Get close, punch, and then run.
When we played, I was the betrayer, and I love being betrayer, by the way.
I bet.
And I was the alien, and I was like, I can't lose. I was just walking around. Glenn was right next to the aliens, so he started his turn, tried to run away, and if there's like 2, I got 2 aliens, not just one. Mm-hmm. So when he tries to run away, he gets -2 movement. Mm-hmm. So he barely got away. I was like, okay, I was like, hypnotize you. And then like, I walked around, hypnotize you.
Right.
And they just didn't have a chance.
Right.
So.
We actually got one where, the one time I played, it was zombie based, but Cannibals, there you go. We had 2 ways to win, but it was like,
we couldn't win the first wave.
Yeah, the first wave was like direct the people out of the house, and it was like impossible. The way that they were situated was just, it was not possible for them to exit the house. And I forget who it was the betrayer.
I think it was Ken.
Ken was a betrayer, and he had there was no way he could lose the game unless this happened, and it did. And we ended up getting.
We shot him.
We shot him and killed him.
Ken's brother shot him in the face.
Yep.
The thing is with this game is the tile laying is really awesome because you're making the house like not randomly, but you can kind of like, it's like snaking.
You can guide it,
right?
You can guide it, but like the way that our game worked, where the people that are trying to be eaten, they escape and they walk in one direction. But the hallway ends in one thing, so they just keep going back and forth, right? And we have to lead them to the door, but we can only take one guy at a time. Mm-hmm. And Ken just like comes in, I wreck your face. Mm-hmm. And he just like walks up to Josh, wreck your face. Yeah. We had one guy, we just like, okay, Ken's brother, I forget his name. Yeah. Just like, okay, we gave him the gun, we gave him a spear, we gave him everything. No. It's like, kill this guy.
Right.
Because we were just getting our ass whooped.
Yeah. So high on the replayability. It's really cool to not, in my opinion, not read ahead. I mean, you've got those books.
Oh, don't read ahead.
Right, yeah,
never read ahead.
That'll ruin the game. It may be tempting, but just let the scenarios happen as they go. And then, what are you doing? You're fighting werewolves. You're fighting space monsters. You don't even know. It's pretty awesome. How many players and what's the cost on that?
3 to 5.
3 to 5 players. What's the cost? I didn't see.
According to some eBay prices, which I don't think is correct. It goes downwards from $40 to upwards to like $120, depending on the edition you have.
Oh wow!
This was an older game. It was released back in 2010. So,
is there expansions for this?
I didn't see any expansions for it yet, but that's what they were citing it for. And yeah, if you find a lower edition for it or a cheaper version, go ahead and try it out. Highly recommended, just because you could play it around. You could play with your friends and. It's a good way to like say F you sometimes. One
thing I don't like about this game is the pieces. Like the trackers.
Yes.
Oh man, yes. It was awful.
The trackers are awful. So that's for life, right?
Yeah,
and
like stats.
Stats. For your stats, because you bump the table and you just reset everybody's stats. Like it's just like, wait, was I on 6 or 5? And it's really important because it's a condition for your rolls, right?
Or, sanity, intelligence,
right? Exactly.
Something else.
Strength.
So you should find another way to keep track of that because, like, seriously, they do not work. It was kind of
I think it would be better like in Arkham Horror. I don't know you guys played this, like there's a sheet of paper and then there's like a circle just goes on top of the numbers. Right. I think that would be better than these flimsy. Yeah. Like it doesn't actually clip. I think Ken was thinking about using paper clips.
Yeah.
To just like clip on the things. Because like the things they provide you are like
it's trash.
Because everything else is high quality. They give you like miniatures that look pretty cool. The tiles are cool. Like, and then that was low quality. Come on, guys.
Right.
I probably thought it was a good idea because like they wanted to.
Well, it makes you wonder what like the first ed was like.
Oh yeah,
everything's like on the back of like construction paper or something.
Okay, so that's cool. So Josh, did you have a game that you want to recommend? You want to pass this time, or you want
to? I guess. Are we starving for time? Because
we got
a pretty long.
We got about 10 minutes.
I'll skip this week. The games that I'll just say that the Caverna would be the game that I discussed, but that's like a half-hour conversation.
Okay,
the game's really extensive.
Well, I'll throw in a link when we put the links. I'll throw that in so people can check it out on their own. Then maybe we can talk about it at a different time.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'll jump into mine, and mine it's funny because it does suffer from one of the same things that Glenn suffers from is in the extra pieces, as in there's way too freaking many of them in the case of this. But this is Sentinels of the Multiverse, and it's unbalanced. It's sometimes very player-sided, sometimes very game-sided, but it's incredibly fun. It's for 1 to 5 players, and basically you're a superhero team and it's co-op. So you're battling the game. There's specific directions on what the villain does. And then all the players take a turn, and then there's specific directions on what the environment will do. Sometimes the environment helps you, sometimes it hurts you. But it's basically your team trying to take down a supervillain. What makes this fun and replayable is that the supervillains, you can randomize. There's a bunch of different ones to choose from, and there's plenty of expansions for this game. So the supervillain roster can grow and grow and grow, as can your hero roster. The other thing that makes this, so you get to pick who you want to be. So if you can do it just by looking at the cards. It's card based, right? So you get your own deck. So if you say, okay, I want to be this guy. What is the name of some of the players? There's Hookah, is that his name? Yeah. And he's kind of this big tank type guy, and he's got a deck that revolves around sort of being the tank, absorbing damage. He doesn't do a lot of damage, but everybody can play a role. There's some who are just support, right? They help their co-players draw cards. Some of the heroes are just straight up damage dealers. They're sort of glass. They get taken out easily, but man, they can pack on a lot of damage. So part of the fun is just assembling your team and seeing how it goes. The other part of the fun is seeing what kind of, trouble you're going to get into with the bad guys. And each of the bad guys is slightly different. There's one bad guy who, Baron Blood, he's just kind of a big badass, but he also has this bonus win condition that, if there's too many cards in his trash, the game is over.
Yeah, the moon crashes.
The moon crashes into the earth, and every turn he dumps 1 card, or if you're playing the advanced version, he dumps 2 cards into the trash. So it could be a really quick game, and you've got to race to beat him. There's another villain that is a child who is possessed by a demon. She only has like 5 hit points, and I forget what the win condition is, but you can't kill her. You don't hurt her at all, because if you kill her, the game is over. You have to depossess her somehow by dealing with all of the bad things that she spawns. So there's just a bunch of variations and different ways to play. Again, the game's not super well balanced, but it's good enough. It's good enough. And the level of entry, I like that too. As long as somebody knows the game, and everybody's sort of into comic books or superheroes, pretty much anyone can play. I've played with people who just don't play tabletop games normally, and the hero levels are set for the deck, so it'll show you this is a level 1 hero. Not in that they're weak, but in they're very straightforward to play. Like this guy just punches. All you have to do is find the cards that punch and punch. And then there are level 3 heroes, which are much more complex. You're going to have to dig through your deck, find these certain types of cards for this situation, and these other types of cards for another situation. And those are the decks that probably the Magic players would like more, because it gives you a little bit of a toolbox. So it's a great game. It probably runs the core game, I think, runs $50. Great replayability. One thing that I highly recommend, there's an app in order to score for the iPad. And I'm not sure what other devices it's on. I have it for the iPad. It does cost $5. That's really annoying. They should just be giving that away for free because we bought your game. If you don't have the app, you have to score yourself. And I recommend going with pen and paper or anything over the mass amount of tokens that they give you. There's a 1 damage, 5 damage, 10 damage, 25 damage counters, and there's like a bazillion of them. And there's all these modifiers that'll happen. Some characters give poison, right? So everybody gets a -1. Some people have a shield that gives them +2 defense. And keeping track of all these counters is just madness. So buy the app. Just expect to spend that extra $5. It is totally worth it. The app runs very smoothly. This is not to be confused with the Sentinels of the Multiverse game. There's an actual game for the app, which doesn't run smoothly. It's $12. It's fun to play. It's
now $10.
They did. Was it $10 now?
It's $10 now.
Yeah. Okay. So $10. It is fun to play. It crashes way too often, at least on iOS. But it's interesting. If you just want a taste of the game, you could do that. It's a solo game. You'd be playing that one by yourself. But some of the fun in Sentinels really is just, getting together with your team, deciding what the strategy is, and just kicking ass. And it's sometimes it's more fun to have your ass handed to you. And the closer the game, the better. Brian always makes us play the advanced rules. We never get to play the easy ones. So when we're sitting around playing with Brian, we're like, oh, this guy looks tough. And you're like, yeah, wait until you read the advanced version of him. And you're like, geez, how are we going to do this, right? But it makes it fun, losing and then just like picking a new team and fighting that bad guy again, or just picking the same team and fighting a different bad guy. It's a good game.
One thing I want to add is like, whoever is that person that knows how to play the game, very diligent on what the turn order is and what is happening, because the bad guys have like 50 triggers that you have to remember, like start of the turn, end of the turn, something's happening. So you have to be diligent, because like it sucks when you're like, oh, we missed that trigger of that villain or something.
Right. That
and you're like, and it like totally changes the game, and you can't go back, and like kind of ruins the game. So you kind of have to really keep track of what the villain is doing.
Yeah.
You can't. I know it's like, we got a leg up. No, you cheated the game.
Right. Yeah. And I think, we have won our fair share. We went through a season of playing this where we played it like every week, like 2 or 3 games for for a few weeks, and it was fun to see that variety. And I should actually bring it back because I got more expansions. Yeah. And I think you guys and Josh hasn't played it yet, but it's just all around pretty fun game. Yeah,
it's just like the more expansions that they release, I think the power creep is going up. So it's like some of the decks are like, I do 2 damage, I heal 1. And then like the other decks are like, oh, I have this enchantment +3 attack whenever I do an attack. So it's like you just see your friends doing like cool stuff, and you're like, punch guy.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes some of the decks are like so uninspired because they're old or something.
Right.
And then the new ones, they're like trying to be creative because they can't be the old stuff. So those are the cool ones I like look forward to. It's like they're more like complex to play because they try different ideas. And I don't think they need to R&D that much, right? I think so because some decks are like way overpowered. Some decks are like, how does this guy do anything?
Right. Right, but there is specific, I was talking about the bad guy who crashes the moon into the earth. I remember playing that game, and very specifically, everything was on Brian, because Brian had cards, one card?
No, there's 2 cards in my deck.
2 cards in his deck that would remove the trash from the bad guys, which would buy us all the time we needed to kill him. So everything we would do would be somehow to get Brian's support to pull more cards so that he would hopefully pull that card from the deck. And he failed. Yeah.
We're like, where is this card? Because I think Miguel's ability was to make me draw 2 cards or something. So it's like every ability to make me draw cards would just like happen. And then while we're trying to manage all these machines that are coming up.
Right.
So it was really fun. It was just like, the thing is like, oh, we needed this card. Yeah. And we were thinking about it, how does other decks beat this?
Right, yeah.
Without that banishing or exiling the graveyard.
Right, there's got to be some,
like you can't beat him down fast enough because it's like, he has a machine that makes him invulnerable. So you have to kill the machine first.
Right.
And then when he's almost dead, he flips to his other side.
Right.
That he like resurrects those invulnerable machines.
Right. Oh yeah, and that's part of the fun of this too, is that the bad guy, you attack him, you get him down to a certain level, or there's a certain condition that you meet, and he flips, and his attack mode changes somehow. And so that's always good, because a lot of times, sometimes it's very straightforward, like, ooh, you never want to be on the B side. Other times it's not straightforward, and it's like, we should flip him now, do this, and then flip him back if we can. It's a really cool game. There's a lot of different ways to play it, and definitely check it out online. I'm sure there's demos of it. I'll link to one if I can find it.
Yeah, it's a really cool game. Pretty easy.
That game actually reminds me of a game that's not fun to play, which is the DC Marvel Infinite. What is it?
Universe.
Which the deck build?
Yeah, the deck building game. The shitty one that was like, oh, here you play against Doctor Doom, and then like, here's a bunch of superhero cards.
Oh, Marvel Legends. Right?
Marvel Legends.
Was it Legends?
Legendaries?
So
Legendary. There you go.
Yeah, Legendary. I didn't mind that one other than the setup. I thought it was okay, and the DC one is a watered down version.
Well, there's like 80
level.
expansions or some shit for it now. Because I walked into Game Castle and there was just like stacks of them.
Yep.
All for sale.
And they just released a new one like this week too, I think.
So they're up to like 10 expansions or something. And
people are loving people are buying that game.
They give it a pile of shit. Like, okay, like I can deal with like extended setups, although it is one of my pet peeves.
Yeah.
But games where like you instantly know that like this is a like, oh, I remember the first time we played it, we dealt out the cards that we're gonna play with, and it was like, oh, Spider-Man. That is the most worthless character in this game. Why does this exist? And if anyone actually listens to our podcast and wants to complain, yes, I know there's supposedly some fucking tactics with Spider-Man that are broken or some shit, because you can like cycle your entire deck or whatever, but it doesn't do shit. And like the interaction between other cards is fucking horrible, and it's another one of those games where I know that Sentinels is a good, or you guys have been saying Sentinels is a good game. But another game where if you miss triggers, you're just cheating the game, and you've basically fucked up an entire game that takes forever to set up. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember when we were playing, like, oh shit, Dr. Doom was supposed to do this 2 turns ago. We would have been screwed at that point. Yeah. Oh well. And then at that point, you just feel like, why are we bothering to play this anymore? Like, and it can happen all the time, like, because there's so much shit that happens in that game. It's like somebody read Pandemic and decided to mix it with fucking Dominion and then splashed in some fucking Thunderstone. That game is horrid. But I thought I'd remark on a shitty version game, shitty version of Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Yeah, I think Sentinels definitely beats out the much more publicly known Legendary and that DC deck building game for sure. Just in terms of fun. I mean, yeah, it's always great to be able to play with Batman and Hawkeye and see your favorite characters, but I don't know. Just in terms of enjoyment, I think Sentinels has them all beat. So hopefully people check that out.
Yeah, I think deck building games period needs like
something new.
Something new.
Yeah.
Like Dominion like kind of dragged on for us. Like we played Dominion like
as long
every
as
expansion.
We could.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's fun.
Right.
Like
not anymore.
And then Ascension came out, that was fun. But
Ascension was awesome until the 4th expansion. Once they introduced like some of the other crazy shit, it's just like
they're trying to make it more complicated.
Right.
At that point I was like, I'd rather just play it on my fucking iPod.
Yeah. The iPod version was pretty good. Yeah, I played that a lot.
Yeah, I've got like 3 save games that have the infinite loop going. So.
Yeah. What else? Oh, yeah, and then
Thunderstone was a game where Brian never liked it early.
I didn't like the original one.
Setup. The original
one, and then the new one. I like that one.
Every expansion thereafter really did improve the gameplay, but
not expansion, the reboot.
Oh, reboot.
They rebooted the game
okay.
to like Thunderstone Advanced or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not actually advanced. They actually made it simpler, which is awesome.
Right.
And
but that's another game that suffers from holy shit, way too much setup.
Yeah, there's a lot of setup, but like the game is actually like there's not much triggers to like look.
No, definitely. There's not many ways to fuck the game up.
Yeah. So and then the game is like just fun. Like it's just.
I feel like
it's more straightforward.
One of the games, or one of the things that you were talking about with Sentinels with the app and all that. Mm-hmm. One of the things that any deck building game can do to improve their game is by making a simple randomizer app for both phone types, because. Yeah. holy shit, was Dominion a bitch to play until they released the app.
Yeah.
And then
it's a fan-made art. It's app.
And that app made all of a sudden Dominion playable again for us. Like, I remember we stopped playing for a while, and then that app came out, and then we played a shit ton afterwards because it was so much easier to play. Yeah. And then it died when some of the later expansions were just too fucking retarded.
No, it's not. It's not that. It's just like
that was why I stopped anyways.
Yeah, it's more like they focused more on attacking, and they like you can play this alternate game where it's instead of 3 estates you get these 3 different ones. Blah blah blah, and it's like it's fine. But,
yeah.
See, I always thought that attacks were kind of like meh, and I get it. It's part of the game. But like I remember the last expansion that we bought was almost all attacks. And it was
and it certainly flavors the game totally differently. Like one attack, one curse, or whatever. Understandable. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. But when it becomes
there's 4 attacks on the board, you're like to buy. You're just like, oh, so I'm going witch and militia, and
Yeah, and it's like barely scraping by. It's not fun. Yeah. Like you're just like, well, I scored 2. You guys had 0. Right. I won. Stuff like that. It's just like. I want to get to my combo. That's at least for me. It's like, I see these 3 combos, and I want to do it, and it's like you get to do it. With attacks, it's like you're slowing everybody down, and then like, I don't like it that you're attacking me. I'm gonna buy an attack myself, and then you guys just keep attacking each other.
Yeah,
and it just becomes
just a big circle jerk.
And you're like, okay, I just want to end this game because Cause the more Josh attacks me, the more I'm gonna lose. So I'm like, okay, just end the game so I can score, and then like he's too busy attacking me and he didn't score. That's how the game like kind of like mind math and like, okay, I know how many points he's bought and I have more than him. So if I end the game, I win. Which a lot of people don't keep track of.
Right. Yeah, that's true. It is. You see a lot of people just playing like, "What? Oh, it's over. Okay, now I'll tally." Right, and it's like, well, you should have been kind of tallying.
One thing that's interesting, we all recommended co-op games.
Oh yeah.
Which is odd because I think the only co-op game we usually normally play is Pandemic.
Yeah.
Actually, what is the remark about Dominion real fast? I was telling Miguel before we started tonight that Dominion is kind of like one of those games where like all the other ones we recommended, like you have like somebody has to be of playing level X or whatever in order to play, and then Dominion actually is like the really great median game for like beginning tabletoppers because like when you start playing the game for the first time, you're just like, wow, this game's really fun, and then if you get it, then you'll start to understand all the strategy behind it, and there's a lot involved in that game. And then you start noticing the combos that are there, and then you either evolve to the point where you're starting to like go like, okay, like we can start programming the app to like give us only a certain combination and stuff like that, and you get more and more advanced play, or you get bored with it and leave it on the side.
Yeah. And that's one thing in the end, we're just like literally counting cards.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
it becomes very poker.
Yeah, Josh bought 3 duchies. I know I have him beat.
Right.
I'm trying to end the game, and Josh is trying like, I gotta buy one more province to like get out of this, or else Miguel's gonna win.
Right.
So we're all it got to a point where like we're really trying to win, which I mean our group does that.
Yeah.
We want to win.
We're min-maxers.
Yeah, and we did recommend co-op games because those are just fun.
Yeah.
And fun in a way that's not, you can't this term quarterbacking where like one person runs the game.
Pandemic.
Which Pandemic you totally can.
Yeah.
It's been, people run that.
Yeah, and
actually I played Pandemic with like several different groups now. And I know at least one group that doesn't mind just like basically laying their cards on the table and just like kind of group deciding everything. And ironically, they're bad at it, which that should make the game infinitely easier.
Right.
Being able to just go like, oh, you've got that, you got this, and like let's hand everything to you, and then. But it's like when we play face down.
Yeah,
we usually try not
play,
to be too.
Our like house rule is like don't just tell everybody your cards. We kind of like hold it and then like, oh, I can meet you in Africa, you know, stuff like that, and you know, I can meet you at this city, so we can like do something.
Yeah, because it's just like cheating the game is no fun, and in a sense that is cheating the game, right? Yay, we won, but it wasn't, the journey wasn't.
We won, or did Miguel win?
Yes.
Miguel's telling everybody how to play, and it's like, why am I sitting here?
Right,
can you just play by yourself?
I'm gonna go drink soda and play some Hearthstone.
But back to your point, these games involve everybody and decisions by everybody. I don't know about actually with Glenn's game and my game, the players' turns are relatively short and relatively simple. You do one thing here, you do one more thing, you draw 2 cards, your turn is over. Right? That's basically what.
I don't think any of the 3 games actually suffer from quarterbacking.
Yeah, because in Elder Sign, you're holding the dice.
Right.
No one can roll the dice for you, so you're like, okay, I'm gonna go for this.
Right. And you've got your own preferences, and there's no real right or wrong.
Yeah.
I would say.
Well,
House on House of Betrayal at the Hill is like, or whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah.
Glenn said it 4 different ways too, so I'm not gonna feel bad too bad. But that game is totally independent. Like, I mean, you kind of just group decide some stuff, but for the most part, you're just like, I'm gonna go over here, fuck
right.
You.
And
I'm exploring the house.
Yeah, the tiles that you pull to explore the house,
that's all on you.
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
I mean, there's some times where you're like, oh, this is an important tile. Where should we put it, guys?
Right.
But for the most part, you're just like, no, I want to go.
But you don't even know
here.
that you're going to pull that tile, right? So you can't really strategize ahead of time. Nobody can quarterback through that.
And half the time, you all just agree that, like, let's build over this way because the table doesn't go out that far.
Right, yes, exactly. Yeah, we ran into that problem too. That's true. For Glenn's game, you need a big table. Not a regular table.
No, definitely
big
a big ass table. The bigger the better, or play on the floor.
Right. Yes, because you are building the house as you go, flipping tiles.
And there's an upstairs, and then there's a downstairs.
So it gets a little overwhelming, especially on a small table.
And then Sentinel the Multiverse is pretty much independent because it's all just you playing your deck. I mean, you guys will like group decide on some stuff, but I mean, for the most part, you can't really quarterback. If you do, you're just being a giant asshole going like, okay, Brian, come on, let me see your hand.
But when you're playing Sentinels, people are giving up what they can do, saying, all right, I can either support Glenn or Brian my next turn. Like, who can do more damage, right? And so
but it's a group decision game as opposed to
right, yes, exactly, yeah, definitely. All right. Well, we went a little long on this part, but hopefully we gave you some options of some cool games to look at. And if you have some cool games that you'd like to recommend, please feel free to leave those in the comments. And so that was the RNG podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Stay frosty.